So what is good, y'all? It is Anime K here, and we are back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about if Minato survived, what would really change in the story. Now, we're not going to be covering every single thing in the story, but I'm going to be covering some key events that I think would have changed if Minato would have survived. Now, the first thing and the first obvious thing I can think of is Naruto's life. Now, Naruto, we know before, right, when Minato died, you know, Danzo leaked that he was the Nine Tails, and a lot of stuff just wasn't great for Naruto in his life. He was alone, the third Hokage stuck him in some apartment by himself. He had a really bad upbringing, right? You've all seen that. But I think if Minato survived, one, I think his life gets tremendously better, because one, he's going to have a parent at home for one, so he's not going to be stuck in some little apartment. He probably would live in that big house that Minato and Kushida was in. Two, I think a lot of people would know he's the Hokage's son and be nice to him. Now, there is a filler episode, if you remember, where they kind of give you a little snippet of what Naruto's life would have been like if Minato and Kushida were still alive. Now, in that filler episode, a lot of people were still scared of him. Now, I know Kishimoto wrote it himself, so we could probably just go based off that's how Kishimoto would write if Minato survived, but I don't know if they'd still exactly be scared of him, because I don't know if they'd even find out that he had the Nine Tails in him. And why do I think that? Because I think, obviously, right, it's been widely talked about how the third Hokage just used to ignore most of Danzo's stuff, and Danzo under the third Hokage was just basically allowed to do really whatever he wanted. Now, do I think Danzo would still scheme if Minato was still alive? Of course he would, but I don't know if he would reveal that the Hokage, that's still the Hokage now, that his son had the Nine Tails in him. I just don't think the people would really even find out in general. But if they did find out, I think they're going to treat him a little bit better, because even though they're afraid of him, his dad literally saved the village. And you know that if it ever was to happen again, Minato can just control the Nine Tails himself with his sealing jutsu, and it will be fine. And at this point, Naruto only had half the Nine Tails in him as well, so it's not going to be as destructive as it was when it had all its power. But I do think Naruto's life changes drastically, because I don't think he would grow up alone. He would have more friends, and I think he would just have a happy home life in general with his dad still being there. Now, what's the next thing that changes? Now, we're going to stay with Naruto, but I think more stuff changes with Naruto, and it is Naruto as a ninja. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, Naruto as a ninja, from what we see in the original story, is kind of dumb. He's the bottom of his class. You know, he's not that smart, because really he had no one to train him, whereas other ninjas would have had the fathers to guide them and help them train. Now, I think with Minato being alive, one, Naruto has the strongest guy in the village to train him, so he's going to be drastically stronger than the Naruto we got in the original series. Two, Naruto already had potential to be so strong because of his mass amounts of chakra, and I think Minato would help him control that. Now, if you see in the original series, Kakashi didn't really pay a lot of attention to Naruto. Now, he did help Team 7, don't get me wrong, he did his best, but you could see he was mostly focused on Sasuke. Now, I'm sure he had his own reasons, you know, Obito, the fact that Sasuke kind of had the same nature chakra as him. I think they both had lightning, right? So, and they both have the Sharingan, so it was easier for Kakashi to kind of more focus on Sasuke. Now, with Sasuke, he gave him the Chidori. Even before the Chunin exam, he helped Sasuke train. So all that stuff, right? Sasuke got the most help out of Team 7. Now, if Minato's still alive, I think one, Naruto learned the Rasengan even earlier. Now, you could debate whether Minato would have shown him the Rasengan, but I think he learns the Rasengan earlier. Even his clan techniques, so you know Kushida taught Minato some of the Uzumaki clan sealing techniques. I think Naruto would also learn them to proper help himself control the Nine Tails. He may not even need Yamato later on in the story, because he may just be able to seal the Nine Tails back, or at least put his own seal back by himself. Also, he would just be a lot more smarter, I think, because I think Minato would teach him a lot of stuff. Now, his journey with Jiraiya, I still think he goes onto that journey, only because I think that was a huge part of his development. And personally for me, I like his relationship with Jiraiya, so I wouldn't take that out of the story. But I think even coming back off the time skip, we get a stronger Naruto because of everything his dad's taught him up to that point, and then everything Jiraiya teaches him after. And I feel like he'd be able to grasp stuff and basically just learn stuff quicker than he would have before. So I think Naruto as a ninja, I think we get a stronger Naruto with Minato still alive. Now, I think the next thing that drastically changes with Minato being the Hokage is the Uchiha massacre. Now, this is a 50-50 because the Uchiha massacre could have still happened, right? But I think at least the situation would have been handled better. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, Hiruzen and Danzo, right? They were the kind of two main people that were handling the Uchiha massacre. Now, while Hiruzen was a bit more optimistic, both him and Danzo both grew up during, you know, the early stages of the Uchiha where Hashirama and especially Tobirama probably were still a bit unsure about the Uchihas. I thought they kind of had an underlying, not hatred for the Uchihas, but a bit of bias towards the Uchihas in general anyway. And I thought someone like Minato, a younger Hokage, someone who grew up around the Uchihas and really would have known the history of the Uchihas, but when he grew up, he probably would have grown up in peace around the Uchihas and wouldn't have experienced the level of hate that was in for the Uchihas or the level of uneasiness that was with the Uchihas prior to Minato being born at the start of the village. But I feel like Minato, he would have handled the situation better. Now, how does he go about this? One, he could give Fugoku a high position in the village because the Uchihas, as we know, the way they were handled and the positions that they got in the village, it was kind of a joke, right? It was a bit embarrassing because they gave them the police force, right? Which was a good idea, don't get me wrong, by Tobirama. It was a good idea to give the Uchihas a bit more power in the village, but really, they were just police officers in the village, right? I feel like giving an Uchiha a higher position in the village, which still to this day has never really been done, would go lengths to show the Uchihas that the Leaf Village actually trusted them, because that's all they really wanted. They just wanted to be trusted and just wanted to feel like they was a part of the village. And I think them being one of the founding clans of the Leaf Village as well, and they wasn't treated with respect, I just didn't like that in general. Now, the Uchihas themselves did stick to themselves and only kind of breed between themselves, so you could in part say that was them also fueling the fire, but still I felt the Leaf Village should have trusted them more. Another thing, when Itachi was reporting to Hiruzen and later on Danzo, right, about what was going on, instead of him reporting to Hiruzen, now he's going to report to Minato, and I think Minato, would he get Itachi to spy on the Uchihas? I don't know. That's again a 50-50, but I feel like whatever information he would have got from Itachi, he would have handled it better. He may have gone and spoke to the Uchihas. He may have tried to have peace talks with them, but the Leaf Village, he never attempted to do that. Hiruzen was like, oh, I'll get to it in a couple of days, just give me more time. It ended up being too late, and Danzo persuaded Itachi to kill the rest of his clan, or the Leaf Village would attack the Uchihas. Now, what always seemed weird to me about the whole thing is Danzo doesn't even really, obviously he has the root, but the root is not enough to deal with the Uchihas, right? So Danzo never really had the authority to send the whole Leaf Village after the Uchihas, so it was kind of weird to me that Itachi listened. But I feel like with Minato speaking to Itachi, I think the negotiations go more smoothly. Now, like I said, it is a 50-50 because the whole Uchiha coup d'etat, it was so sensitive and there's a lot of factors to why the Uchihas ended up having to die. But in my opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't think it goes on. And I think so much stuff changes for Sasuke, maybe even Shisui gets to survive, maybe. But I feel like Sasuke has his family, and later down the line, Sasuke, maybe he never even leaves the Leaf Village, because now that his family's still there, he doesn't really have a hate towards the Leaf Village or a reason to leave the Leaf Village, because Itachi would probably also still be there. So I feel like a lot of stuff changes with the story with Minato being there, and this is one of them that I think the Uchiha massacre wouldn't happen. Now, the next event for me that changes in the story is when Orochimaru attacks the Leaf Village. Now, if you remember when Orochimaru attacks the Leaf Village, right? He attacks it during the tuning exams, and he basically gets Hiruzen into this big box, right? That is basically, I think it's like a ceiling box. I can't remember what the box was called, but basically no one can get in and no one can get out, and it's just Hiruzen versus Orochimaru. Now, in this fight, Orochimaru summons both the first and second Hokage, and we see the third box come up where, you know, Hiruzen is obviously scared because this was implied that it was going to be Minato, but nonetheless, that's not what we're talking about here. We're going to talk about if Minato was there, how would the fight change? Now, first of all, you could say that Orochimaru's plans would have changed if Minato was alive, which is a fair assessment, right? Because if Minato was there, I don't think Orochimaru, he probably would have had to get more help. But let's say the story goes the same, right? In terms of what happens leading up to that event. Let's say instead of Hiruzen just being in that box, Minato's there as well. Now, you could argue that Orochimaru would still just trap Hiruzen in there, which, you know, it's my story, so I'm gonna just say that Minato is in that box. Now, if Minato is in that box with Hiruzen, one, it doesn't matter what Orochimaru does because Hiruzen by himself took care of Tobirama and Hashirama. Now, we know this wasn't Tobirama and Hashirama at their full power, but it was still impressive that he was able to take on both the first and second Hokages, and Hiruzen ends up sealing both of them. Now, Orochimaru versus Minato. Now, I think we can all agree that Minato definitely kills Orochimaru, right? Or at least he's stronger than Orochimaru, so Minato wins this fight. So one, what changes with this? One, I don't think the third Hokage dies because he's not going to be left alone with 3 monsters trying to kill him, right? Because Minato's going to be there. And two, just the Sand Village's plans in general are just stopped by Minato being there because that's just how strong Minato is. And I think Orochimaru in this fight would end up having to retreat, and I think his plans would fail. And worst case scenario, Orochimaru ends up dying or being captured by the Leaf Village because Minato is there. And I think the rest of this arc plays out the way it plays out, with obviously Naruto using his summoning jutsu and Naruto defeating Gaara and all that. But I think that one pivotal moment in the arc of the third Hokage dying, I don't think he has to die if Minato was there, because you've got someone else in the village that can handle Orochimaru. And now that I look back at it, there was really not a lot of people in the Leaf Village once Minato died that could really handle Orochimaru level threats, you know, because Jiraiya wasn't there, Tsunade wasn't there. So the Leaf Village really, after Minato's death, was really weakened. Now that I'm kind of looking back at events, it was really weakened. So Minato being there, it changes a lot of stuff, right? A lot of stuff, because you still have Hiruzen, a bit older but still able to fight, and then you have a prime Minato. And also what you have to remember is this is going to be a stronger Minato, because Minato doesn't die, right? He's going to obviously continue training. He may even add more variants to Rasengan, I don't know, but you gotta remember, with all these events, I'm going based off the fact that we're also going to get a stronger Minato, right? Even the Minato that we've seen before he died, I think would have taken Orochimaru, but the Minato after, which probably would have been what? He at least would have been what, 25, 26, maybe 27? I don't know, even older than that. So yeah. Now let's move on to the last thing that I think would have changed, or the last big effect that Minato would have had on the story, and that is the Pain arc. Now this is very interesting because I think, again, you could argue that Pain's plans would have changed if Minato was still alive, right? But if you go based off the original story and Pain attacks the Leaf Village, right, there's pros and cons to Minato being there. Now the negatives is that with Minato being there, there's probably going to be no Tsunade there, so you're not going to have Tsunade there to heal a lot of the villagers and heal a lot of people and save them, because even though a lot of people end up dying, a lot more people would have died if Tsunade wasn't there. So first, that's going to be taken away, right? But the pros is you're going to have someone strong as Minato that would actually be able to take on Pain, and I think maybe even defeat him. And now why do I say that? Because Naruto in Sage Mode, right, fresh off Sage Mode, so just learned it, was able to put up a really good fight against Pain. Now does he end up getting captured? Yes, but you have to remember, this is going to be a Minato that is more experienced with Sage Mode than Naruto was at that point, right? He's also going to have sealing jutsu, so all the other Pains, right, he's probably going to be able to seal them away. Now would Pain be able to recover them? Maybe, maybe not, but he's at least going to have a better chance of sealing them and breaking on the fight to just a one-on-one. Two, he has the Flying Raijin, right, which in itself is just such, it's not a broken ability like the common way, but it is close. The fact that he could probably just mark all the Pains and simultaneously keep switching between them and defeating them. So it's going to make it really hard. Even though Pain can see through all his eyes, it doesn't really matter because Minato would be that fast. Now, what gets taken away from this is I don't know if Minato would have all the variants of the Rasengan that Naruto had, because obviously Naruto had the Russian God, I can, the spinning Rasengan, right? So Naruto had a lot of other jutsus, whereas Minato, I don't know if he would have had different variants of the Rasengan, but he has the Flying Raijin and he's a more experienced Sage Mode user. Now Minato versus Pain, I don't know how you think it would have gone, because that's another debate, but it makes it harder for Pain to come and just capture the Nine Tails. And now if we assume that Naruto still learns Sage Mode as well, you've got two Sage Mode users versus Pain. I don't think Pain is capturing the Nine Tails. Now he didn't capture the Nine Tails anyway, but I don't think he even gets as close as he nearly did. Plus, if you take into the fact that Minato had half of the Nine Tails in him and had the good side of Kurama in him as well, and befriended Kurama, at this point, if you could assume that Minato would have had control over Kurama, you could then say that maybe he doesn't have KC on 1 mode, but he at least has Tail Beast mode, right? You know, the one where he's all kind of orange and black and he can shoot Tail Beast bombs. So if you add that to the mix as well, the Pain arc significantly changes. And would Pain still die this fight? Probably, yeah. I don't know how it would go with the original story. Would Naruto convince Pain to bring everyone back? I don't know, but I still think Pain ends up dying during this arc, and I think he ends up dying even quicker than he did before with Minato's presence there, because Minato's presence by itself was just so strong, and I understand why Kishimoto had to get rid of him, because a lot of the story would have been different, a lot of the story. But look, tell me if you think I missed out some events, tell me if you think I missed out some stuff that I talked about, tell me if you disagree with the way I think things would have changed in the story. Also, like I said before, tell me if there's some other events in the Naruto series from OG Naruto or Shippuden where you think would have changed with Minato being alive. But personally, I think the rest of the story kind of plays out itself. Now, you could argue that Obito's plans get changed because Minato being alive would have information on Obito and would really be accounted for Obito, right? With his space-time ninjutsu technique as well, Flying Raijin. But look, like, comment, subscribe if you like this video and you enjoyed it. I could do more videos like this where I touch on different characters and if the story would have changed with them being alive. And yeah, this has been Anime K, and thank you for watching, listening, or thank you for watching, listening, or however you choose to indulge in my content, and peace. I'm out.